I'm Hilda. Standing in the middle of my former family's living room, the silence is deafening. The once grand house now feels like a hollow shell, filled with the echoes of lies and betrayal. On the table lies a small gift box, filled with evidence of their misdeeds. I remember the shock on their faces when I walked in, calm as if I were merely strolling through a park. It all started when I was just a young woman, working hard at a local diner. My family, the Andersons, seemed like any other well-to-do family on the outside. My father, Mr. Anderson, was a respected financial advisor, and my mother, Mrs. Anderson, was involved in various social clubs. My younger sister, Lily, was the apple of their eye. I had been saving up for college for years. I worked 3 jobs, scrubbing floors, waiting tables, and doing odd administrative tasks. Every penny I earned went into that account, fueling my dreams of a better future. One morning, after a long shift at the diner, I came home to a family meeting. The sun was streaming through the blinds, but the atmosphere was anything but warm. My mother called me in, and I knew right away that something was wrong. My father sat there, looking tired and defeated, while Lily was sniffling, pretending to be in pain. "I just need some time to find myself," Lily sobbed. "Maybe Italy or Greece. I'm so broken." She was wearing my favorite sweater, as if it were hers. My mother rubbed her back and said, "Sweetheart, we'll figure it out." "Right, dear?" My father let out a long sigh, the kind that told me he'd already given in. Then they turned to me. "Hilda, we've decided to use your college fund. Just until we're back on our feet," my mother said, not even looking me in the eye. It was as if my dreams were nothing more than a bargaining chip. I stood up slowly, every muscle in my body tense. I had worked so hard for that money, and they were just going to take it away. My mother added, "She's your sister. Be generous." And my father, the coward that he was, whispered, "It's not like you were going this year anyway." That was the final straw. Something inside me snapped. I walked into the kitchen, opened the cabinet, and pulled out the black binder where we kept all our important documents. While they were in the other room, praising Lily's supposed courage, I logged into the account, changed the passwords, and locked everything down. I left the binder on the table with a note that said, "Use your own money next time." Then I walked out into the cold, without a coat or a plan. All I had was a seething rage. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went to a 24-hour diner, the same one where I worked. I ordered a black coffee, even though I couldn't afford it, and watched people come and go, each with their own purpose. At 3:12 a.m. I remembered a file on my father's old desktop. I knew the password was Lily's birthday. I walked 2 miles back home, feeling like a thief in my own life. I sneaked in through the garage, and there, in my father's unlocked office, was a manila envelope. It was thick and stuffed with receipts and wire transfer documents. I realized then that they weren't in financial trouble at all. They just didn't want to spend their money on me. I took photos of every page and sent them to a new email I created on his computer. Then I wiped the browser history and left. 3 days later, I got an email from a man named Max. He said he helped people turn their pain into power. I ignored it. Then I got another email from a woman named Ava. She said, "You don't need to confront them directly. Just control the situation from behind the scenes." I was intrigued. I replied, "Teach me." That's when the quiet revenge began. While Lily was posting pictures of pasta and sunsets on Instagram, I was working hard. I moved into a shared apartment with 2 other girls and took on freelance administrative jobs and copywriting gigs. Every night, I studied the files, learning about all the shell companies they owned and the lies they told to the IRS. 3 weeks later, I wore a navy blazer I bought for $6 at a thrift store and went to an office with no sign on the door. Ava was taller than I expected, with high-heeled black shoes, red nails, and eyes that had seen too much. She didn't ask why I was there. She just said, "You're not the first daughter they've tried to discard, but you might be the first to fight back." She gave me a folder with a map of people. There was a compliance officer who used to work with my father, a former investor who claimed my parents had swindled him out of $100,000, and a financial regulator who was Ava's cousin. "Your family hides behind paperwork. Let's use it against them," she said. We started with small steps. I sent an anonymous tip to the IRS and another to the State Fraud Division. We knew it would take time for them to act, but the clock was ticking. I also created a fake LinkedIn profile, posing as a concerned accountant, and posted some subtle clues about unreported assets. The post went viral in financial circles. Back home, my mother posted a family photo of Lily on a beach with a caption that said, "My brave daughter finding herself while her sister figures things out." I laughed so hard I almost choked. They had no idea that I had already frozen 2 of their accounts and flagged their mortgage. Lily's self-discovery trip was also under review for misusing educational funds. Ava was right. We didn't need to confront them directly. We just removed the safety net they thought they had. Lily came back from her trip looking like a princess without a crown. Her credit cards weren't working, and the rent for her apartment hadn't been paid. My mother was on the phone with the bank all day, acting like the fraud was someone else's fault. I watched it all unfold from a burner account. The bank's automated message said, "Due to irregular activity, your accounts have been temporarily frozen pending investigation." Then the real trouble started. Letters came from the IRS, the State Board, and the Education Grant Office. I didn't send them directly, but I knew who did. Ava called it domino placement. My father was the first to fall. His firm quietly let him go. They couldn't afford to have a scandal in their accounts department. My mother kept trying to act like everything was normal, hosting Sunday brunches, but the last one was a disaster. There was no champagne, no fancy food, just silence and half-hearted apologies. One evening, I walked past their house. It looked smaller, as if the truth had shrunk it. I got a text from Ava at 7:43 p.m. saying, "It's time." I opened the trust fund file, the one my mother said didn't exist. It turned out the family emergency was Lily's designer clothes and a vacation home in the Hamptons. With one form, one digital signature, I rerouted the money to a charitable education fund in my name. By midnight, the account was empty, legally transferred, and out of their reach. The next morning, they woke up to nothing. There was a notice on their front door saying, "Assets transferred due to misrepresentation of beneficiary status. Further inquiries may result in legal exposure." My mother fainted, Lily screamed, and my father just sat on the porch, burying his face in his hands. For the first time in years, I felt powerful. They called me over 40 times that week, using blocked numbers and even fake law firm messages. But I didn't answer. I listened to their voicemails, though. It was amazing how quickly their "you're ungrateful" turned into "please call us." Lily's message was the worst. "Hilda, this is all a misunderstanding. You're taking it too far. We're family," she said. Family? She watched them take my future and never said a word. My father's voice cracked as he said, "You don't understand the damage you've done. You're hurting people." No, I was just showing them the truth. I moved into a small apartment with peeling wallpaper, but I was happier than ever. My new job paid $20 an hour, and every dollar was honest. I bought a cheap second-hand desk and wrote a letter to the old me, the one who kept begging for love. I wrote, "You're gone now," and signed it with my real name. Then, the trust fund redirection triggered a deeper audit. It wasn't just my parents, all their donors were investigated. It turned out my father had been moving untaxed funds through a fake charity for 8 years. The charity didn't even have a proper address. They seized the Hamptons property, the fancy car, and even Lily's apartment in the city. Lily posted a crying video online, saying, "My life is falling apart," and my sister did this to me. But this time, people took my side. One commenter wrote, "Maybe don't steal someone's future for your own luxury." Another said, "You can't cry after taking someone's chance at a better life." They showed up at my apartment one morning, knocking loudly. I watched them through the peephole. My mother was in a wrinkled coat, my father looked defeated, and Lily was in the car, looking at her phone. They slid a note under the door that said, "Let's talk. We can fix this. Please, Hilda." I stared at the words. They were still avoiding responsibility, still pretending it was a misunderstanding. I slid a note back under the door that said, "There's nothing to fix. Not for you, not with me." But I knew they still had one thing left, their name. So I sent the final file to a journalist named Nora, who specialized in uncovering white-collar fraud. 3 days later, the story went live. The headline was, "The Anderson family buried their daughter's future and paid the price." It was shared over 200,000 times and featured on a financial ethics podcast. People were talking about it everywhere. Lily deactivated her social media accounts, my mother was dropped from her charity boards, and my father's old firm released a statement condemning his actions. I got an invitation to Lily's engagement party. It was in a rented garden in upstate New York, trying to look fancy but still showing the cracks. I RSVP'd yes, using a fake name. I wanted closure, one last look at the people who tried to bury me. I walked into the party wearing a black dress I made from thrift store fabric. It felt like armor. The music was too loud, and the smiles were too fake. When Lily saw me, she froze, a glass of champagne in her hand. I walked past her, calm as ever. My mother was near the fountain, laughing nervously until she saw me. Her face went pale, and her eyes darted around. My father turned away, unable to look at me. I leaned in and whispered, "I'm not here to ruin your party. You already did that." Then I placed the gift box on the table, filled with all the evidence. I didn't stay for the cake. The silence that followed me out was the sweetest thing I'd ever heard. As I took the bus home that night, I opened the window and let the wind blow through my hair. I lay in bed, looking at the ceiling, and thought, they took my voice, but I found it again. They took my future, but I built a new one from their ruins. And as for love, I'll give it, but I'll never beg for it again. A year later, I'm standing in a classroom, teaching financial literacy to first-generation students. Some of them look like I used to, scared and unsure. I tell them, sometimes, the people closest to you will try to take your future. But money is freedom, and no one can steal that from you. After class, a young girl named Sarah stayed behind. "Miss Hilda, did your family ever say sorry?" she asked. I smiled gently. "No, but I don't need them to. I've found my own peace." Later that night, as I walked home, I checked my mail. There was a letter from my father. It said, "We lost everything. Your mother is sick, and Lily won't talk to us. I don't know what we did to deserve this, but I hope you can forgive us someday." I didn't reply. I didn't owe them anything. Forgiveness is not an invitation, it's a release. Standing by the window, watching the city lights, I know that my story has finally found its ending. No more noise, no more revenge. Just peace and the power of knowing that I overcame.